Hi, I'm Glenn O'Grady, Chair of the Policy Advisory Committee, and I'd like to give you a little update on what the Policy Advisory Committee, or PAC as we like to call it, has been up to since last conference. If you're not familiar with me, you can see that I've been around. I'm currently ending my second go-round as a board member. My term ends at the end of the conference. I'm a past president, and I've been involved with a number of committees over my 40 plus years here with URISA, both current and in the past. So let me give you a little background if you're not familiar with the Policy Advisory Committee and what we're about. Even though URISA has been involved with issues of professional natures and public policy and stuff like that, for most of its existence, board decided that we really were doing it in a haphazard way. There wasn't really a clear conduit on both receiving and developing policies and sort of positions. So they formed the Policy Advisory Committee in 2008. And so our focus is really more outside the professional and public policy areas, not internally. We don't deal with that. We look at issues that are that can be generated from or identified by board members or committee members or board members or by members at large or chapters, and we respond accordingly. But to be clear, only the board can take positions, official positions for URISA, not the PAC. So, as I say, we look outwardly. The board is not obligated to use the PAC. If they choose, they can respond to policy issues without involving us at all if they choose. The PAC is a resource to other committees, URISA committees and chapters and members at large. And we occasionally publish articles and white papers. The GIS-Pro article on the census is an example of that, or the white paper on professional boundaries with the surveying community is another. So we try to be a general resource if at all possible. And URISA, as I say, we communicate with board approval, either the board itself develops a policy response or approves our articles or what have you. But the policy positions can be communicated by one or more venues, by press releases, articles, I say, direct correspondence, like to Congress or what have you, co-signing with other organizations, which we've done, or as a founding member of the Coalition of Geospatial Organizations, or COGO, we often respond through COGO itself, which will issue letters of support or opposition, what have you. And if you're not familiar with COGO, let me just explain what it is. It's made up of 13 voting geospatial organizations. The COGO will only take an official position if all 13 voting members agree. So one member disagreeing means COGO does not issue anything officially. COGO was involved as well as URISA and AEG and a few others directly, but with the passing and the language within the Geospatial Data Act in 2018, and now that it's being implemented through the Federal Geographic Data Committee, or FGDC, we are still involved with that, with COGO. And COGO just recently responded to the draft National Spatial Data Infrastructure Strategic Plan, which was mandated in the Geospatial Data Act, or GDA as we often refer to it. So those things are ongoing. And here's a list of the voting members of the of COGO. And I say, just about everybody, every geospatial organization, GITA was a member, but is not currently. So where are the sources of the issues? As I say, it can be generated by the board itself. A PAC member can introduce it to the committee for discussion. We utilize Track Bill, which is a legislation tracking service that is utilized by URISA. It's for a fee. We also get referrals from other URISA committees and other geospatial organizations, or other organizations that are not geospatial directly, like the Census Project. We get referrals from chapters or even individual members, or sometimes we just see something in the press, whether it be in the professional press or the popular media. So what is Track Bill? Well, again, I said there's an annual fee that URISA subscribes to. Half of that fee is paid by the GIS Certification Institute, and they get one of the 3 user IDs for that. Track Bill monitors federal and state legislation, all 50 states. We receive a daily notice of any legislation that has met the keywords that we have identified as what to look for. We have the ability to track any specific bill that we identify as one of interest. And but you don't need a user ID to see any of the bills that we're tracking. It's just the user ID is used for setup and entering keywords and stuff like that. And also, Track Bill allows us to create and distribute reports if we want to. And what are the keywords that we're currently using? Well, here, because you never know how legislation is going to word certain things, we put in various wording of what may be GIS or geospatial related. We're able to add additional keywords, but we want to be careful not to overload what we have to monitor and stuff like that. But you know, if we need to add keywords, we have that ability. So what are some of the key issues that we've been following this year? Well, obviously the census. Legato is an application with the FCC that has negative impacts on GPS that I'll talk more about. The Florida COVID dashboard issue that raised some ethical concerns. We were following and prepared a statement for the board to issue about that. Implementation of the Geospatial Data Act, as I've talked about, we not only through COGO, but the PAC itself has been following that. We were concerned and lent support to the Congress passing legislation to improve the mapping of broadband availability, especially in rural areas. There was a Environmental Protection Agency transparency rule that was proposed, and we responded to that as it had negative impact on research. Again, we track all 50 states, and for example, in Pennsylvania, there was a House Bill 2101 that potentially impacted GIS professionals, and we worked with the chapter, and or there's no chapter in Pennsylvania, so with members there. As I say, we develop white papers, and we're working on redistricting best practices, but we did issue the white paper on professional boundaries with the surveying community. So let me talk about a few of these in a little more detail. The census, as you well know, has been at an issue, especially with the COVID-19, the delay. So we've been trying to help out there. As I say, we've joined with the Census Project organization, co-signing along with a number of other organizations on funding for the 2020 census, and for how to the idea that they wanted to exclude illegal aliens from the redistricting data, which we think is counter to what the Constitution mandates. And our statement has been published in the recent GIS Professional, was July-August issue, to respond to that. And Legato is where Legato was a satellite communications, and they want to convert their spectrum allocation to terrestrial 5G type of communications, which has higher power, and their spectrum is what GPS currently uses. And that has a very severe impact on GPS receivers for accuracy. And we opposed it. COGO sent several letters in opposition, despite the opposition from us and numerous other agencies and the federal government itself and manufacturers. The FCC approved it and is now on appeal, and we've been tracking that as well. In Florida, with the issue, the firing of the maintainer, Ms. Jones, of the dashboard because of issues on completeness of data, we took a look at that, and while we don't make an opinion on who is right or whatever, we did have a chance to look at the ramifications of GIS professionals, implement or following the GIS Code of Ethics, and what this issue brings out. So the EPA transparency rule, again, what the transparency means is that any study has to be publicly available, and a lot of studies have private information. There's non-disclosure requirements, so we oppose that because that would eliminate a lot of good research that the EPA has traditionally depended on. And we co-signed a letter with the American Association of Geographers and the University Consortium of Geographic Science to oppose it. So, and again, the GDA implementation, that's an ongoing process, and we, along with COGO, have been following it. So here are some of the goals. A lot of them are just what I've already talked about because they're not over with. We're following that along, and we try to be proactive. One of the things we want to expand on is procurement guidelines, because that is currently an issue in COGO and an issue where there's some disagreement. So we're trying to flesh that out. So if you have an interest in that, please let us know. And finally, let us know what you think. We're trying to get more public about what we're talking about and what we're thinking about, and not just waiting until we have to publish something. So again, we have the policy and professional advocacy area in URISA Connect, and our webpage is under the GROW advocacy that you can take a look at, and we try to keep that updated. I'm going to try to do a better job of that as well. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.